Well, Russell, I want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming here all the way from Houston.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Of course. You brought your son with you.
I did. Yeah. We made a little boys trip.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and you're
thanks.
staying in Miami. You guys are going to, well, the game will be long gone by the time this aired, but Jets-Dolphins game tonight.
Right. First Monday night game. We've never been to a Monday night game. We've been to some Texans games and Cowboys games, but we thought we're going to be in the area. Let's check that off the bucket list. When we did that, we didn't know that it would be two winless teams. I think they're both 0-4, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So we don't have a dog in the fight, but we're just, looking forward to having a good time.
But you're going with your son.
Yeah.
You're building memories with your son.
Yeah.
Was your relationships, with your son, with your friends, with your family always like this?
No. Yeah. We'll get into great detail about some of my darkest moments, but I missed a lot of time with my family and friends and my kids growing up, and it's my favorite thing to do now is to make up for that and create those memories.
Yeah, and true, it's wild. I had the same experience.
Yeah.
It's like making up for that lost time,
Right.
and genuinely being in the moment, being present in the moment, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah. Some of my darkest times, so I have two boys.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest one is 18. He's here with me today, and he graduated high school last year. And my younger one's a junior. He's 16. But when the times were most difficult, they were probably 8 and 10. And it was an age where, we should have been glued at the hip, but I was consumed with work and mental illness and other things. So I'm just grateful that I have the opportunity now to, they're my best friends. It's great. And I know you have a little one as well, like 5 or 6. Is that right?
She's 6. She's my best friend.
Yeah.
I love spending time with her. She's so young, but I love spending time with her.
Yeah.
And her personality's coming out now. And it's me with long hair.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife told me when our boys were really young that she said, there's going to be a time where, and it's not that far away, that you're their hero. And they see everything that you do. You may not think that they do, but they're watching, and their behaviors will be molded after that. And I'm so grateful that after all that I went through, I was able to kind of turn the corner at a time where it was pivotal. My kids were still growing as young teenagers, and that I was able to not miss out on all of it, just some of the younger years.
Yeah. So you're coming up, or you have 8 years away from Painkillers? Opioids.
Yeah. So it would have been 2019. So only about 7 years.
Okay. I tried to do the reverse math when you said they were 8 and 10. But
Oh,
you said
right.
that was when it was the worst. So that doesn't mean you quit then.
Yeah.
So 6 years. Okay. That's dude, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Walk us through what it's been like lately for you.
It's been great. We have similar stories, you and I. I spent a couple of decades in kind of corporate America, in a, senior management position. And I found myself letting that kind of dominate my life and not, giving the attention needed to my personal life and my marriage and my kids and my health. But we'll get into details about, some of the extreme measures I had to go to turn my life around, and I'm better for it. But yeah, I would say I've been as healthy mentally as I ever have been for probably the last 6 years. No real episodes or deep depressive states or anxiety attacks. I think you've talked about those. So I'm very grateful that I've been pretty healthy lately.
Was it a period of self-medicating?
Yeah.
Through the anxiety? Because I used to get crippling anxiety to the point where I couldn't even walk in front of people.
Yeah.
Like when you're a kid and you're in the cafeteria walking past stuff like that, I couldn't do it because my anxiety was just it was crippling.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you so many stories of just sitting in a conference in a different part of the country for my work, or being in church not understanding why my skin was crawling. Like I just didn't understand what was happening. I'd become short of breath. And then I would just start bawling, just the tears would just come flowing, sitting in the back of a church or at a corporate meeting. And of course I would try to hide it. But I didn't know what was happening. And I used to think that anxiety and depression, like you either had one or the other. I had no idea until I got real help that they're very closely intertwined. And it's not necessarily always the case that you're either anxious or depressed. You can have both at the same time. So yeah, to answer your question, I have a lot of memories of times that I thought that I wanted to be the confident guy in the suit and tie on stage in front of everybody. And right before I would go up there, I would want to jump off a building.
Yeah.
It's just terrifying.
Yeah, it's crazy because I used to have a huge ego. Yeah, no surprise. I used to have this really big ego, and anytime someone, even at work, do you want to speak at the next offsite? Yeah, of course. I'm Mr. Clutch. Of course I'll do this. And the pride and the ego. And then when it came time to do it, I was like, wait, I really got to do this?
Right.
Like, this is really what I had. And then I will procrastinate preparing for it because I'll get so much anxiety. And then I just won't prepare for it.
Yeah.
And then I'll just wing it. And it comes out like shit.
Yeah.
So there was that was a common theme in my life for a very long time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I experienced a lot of that. I'm grateful I never really choked in public. I was always able to fake my way through it. But through years of therapy and self-reflection, I realized that I had quite a case of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So, and I know you can relate to this, but as a man and as a father and a husband, I think we all or I at least, found my priorities being my image to other people. What kind of car I drove, how nice was my house, what was my job like, what kind of money did I earn? And it was really just about keeping up with the Joneses. And later in life, after I had been humbled a number of times, I think I finally realized that my priorities were off. I was more worried about what other people thought of me.
The Rolex on your arm.
Yeah. Yeah. And after I really did some self-reflection, it occurred to me that was nothing more than my own insecurities and immaturity. If I was placing my priorities on what other people thought of me, I was neglecting what my true priority should have been, which was my family and my community. So, yeah.
Hey guys, quick update. Every Monday night, I host the Rise Above Recovery meeting. It's an open meeting for any addiction, alcohol, drugs, gambling, food, whatever you're struggling with, you're welcome here. To get the meeting link and weekly updates, just email me at kevin@riseabovepod.com and I'll add you to the list. Also, if this podcast has helped you, please like, subscribe, or leave a rating. It helps us continue to spread the message of hope. Lastly, if you'd like to go even deeper with Rise Above, check out our Patreon. Supporters get access to live interviews and can chat with guests after the interview. Thank you.
Yeah, we get caught up in that rat race. And I want to have a nice car. I want to have the nice watch. I want to have the nice house.
Yeah.
The picture perfect family on Instagram. I'm killing it with the podcast. Look who I have on here, this and that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be that way because you're also not staying true to yourself. And you don't grow that way.
Yeah.
You regress.
Yeah.
It's a tough way to live.
I think it's easy to spot these days too. I mean, social media allows all of us to just boast about the very best in our lives. And I see that now and I think that's fantastic that you had that moment, but I wonder if that was just part of your highlight reel, because we all know that everybody has their own demons that they're fighting, or they know someone that is. And I don't know, I think you know this, when you've been through the ringer or the gauntlet, I call it, it kind of gives you more perspective.
Yeah,
and you see things and you can spot a lack of authenticity when you see people that are just constantly talking about themselves or their accomplishments versus their actions. I don't know. Maybe I'm hypercritical of that because I used to be that guy,
Mm-hmm.
but now I just, I want to focus on just being the best version of myself and setting a great example for my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back.
Okay.
You born and raised in Houston.
So actually outside of Austin.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what was early childhood like, and what was it like growing up?
yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, so I grew up in a small town about an hour outside of Austin. It's my parents and myself, and I have an older sister. And we lived a very normal life. Small town, Friday night football. This was the 80s. So there was no internet or cell phones. We just played with our friends until it was dark and we went home type, scenario. Something that I would learn later in life is that although it was a blessing, my parents did a great job insulating us, but we never experienced any adversity as kids. No divorce, no trauma, no loss of loved ones, really until, I think the first adversity I remember ever facing was like when my first grandparent passed away and I was like 15. So I'm blessed in that sense that we had a very normal, loving childhood. But when the wheels fell off later in life, I look at that and think, okay, maybe I wasn't as prepared for the adversity life throws at you down the road. And I keep that in mind with my kids. Not that I want them to experience trauma or adversity, but I'm very honest with them. Part of my journey in sharing my story, if I had to pick one thing, the reason that I do it, in addition to wanting to help others, I don't want my kids to ever have to go through what I've gone through.
Yeah.
So I want them to be able to ask me anything and to know that maybe learn from my mistakes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to answer your question, very, very normal childhood.
It's wild because when you don't face adversity at a young age, I had a very similar upbringing. I had a few scenarios where there was some adversity, but I didn't experience big feelings.
Okay.
So I feel like if you don't face adversity at a young age and your first go around with adversity is in your teens, that's a big emotion and a big feeling that comes along with that adversity, and you don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
Right. And for me, those big feelings, I had to get rid of them. I had to numb myself. And that's where the drinking and the drugs came in.
Yeah.
When did you start drinking? At what age? Or partying, rather?
Yeah, my son and I were just talking about this. I probably had a fake ID at 19. After I graduated high school, I graduated young at 17. We moved to Austin, and I started working in hotels right near 6th Street. So that was the place to go. So 18, 19, probably had a fake ID, started dabbling with, a little bit of drinking. I smoked some weed in high school. Back then, you didn't have to worry about what it could be laced with. You could just have some fun. I know. I tell my kids,
insane.
like, please, guys, don't. It's not worth it. Just stay away.
Yeah. Fentanyl.
Yeah. It's nuts.
It's insane.
Yeah. We're living in a different time.
So after high school, did you go to college?
I didn't. I had planned to. I literally took a summer job as a bellman and a valet driver. And I was going to enroll in some community college classes, and I kept putting it off and I kept putting it off. And I was just very lucky that I was able to turn my summer job into a career in hospitality, which wasn't my plan. Because at the time, when I graduated high school in the mid 90s, everybody was going to school. I know now it's kind of people waver, or people are having great success in trade school. But yeah, I did not go to school. I had planned to.
Which is interesting because you graduated early at 17.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one would think you have a knack for learning, and it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was not a great student. I didn't enjoy school. I'll tell you, one of the reasons I didn't go, we were a middle-class family, and I had to work for what I wanted. If I wanted the name brand jeans or shoes. I had to go figure that out. My parents said, look, here's what we can afford, and that's it. So I started working at a young age. I would work in restaurants or deliver pizzas. And I think I just had this overwhelming sense of like independence. I could earn my own money, buy my own stuff, get my first apartment. And I just kind of fell in love with working and, you know, the rewards that come with your hard work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
Was that implemented though at a young age? Like, did your dad make you go get a so my dad at 16 dropped me off at a restaurant and said, you're going to go bust tables.
Really?
Yeah. And I am so grateful that he did
Yeah.
it because my work ethic is off the charts.
Yeah.
So that's something I always had.
Yeah.
And it was very easy for me because I learned it at such a young age.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm sure that's part of your work ethic today. The fact that he did that. Yeah. My situation was not like that. It was more, we were comfortable, but I knew that if I wanted to have money in my pocket to hang out with my friends or to buy a nicer car than what my parents could help afford, help me with, that was going to be up to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think I started delivering newspapers when I was like 13 years old.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I could drive, I was delivering pizzas. And so I wasn't really pushed in that direction, but early in life, I think I discovered that I could kind of control my own destiny if I put in the work.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of stuck with me.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
They didn't spoil you as a kid.
They did not. And I try to find that balance with my kids.
Mhm.
You know, every parent wants to give their kids the world.
Of course.
But, you know, we also know you can go overboard. Like, so for example, both of my boys are driving now. And the deal was we would match whatever they could save for their first used beater, you know.
Love that.
And my older one did that, had his first beater for a few years and saved up and just bought himself a nice Camaro because he's worked hard for it. But I think had we given him that on his 16th birthday, he just wouldn't be the same person.
Mm.
So we try to find the balance in that.
How's the younger one doing with it?
He's good. They both, I'm very proud to say, have an incredible work ethic.
Yeah.
And my wife works very hard as well.
Mhm.
So we're a working class family. I do worry at times that, you know, you can go overboard if the average 16 or 18-year-old is making more than most, that now they need to focus on saving and budgeting and investing versus getting paid every Friday and going out and spending it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Compounding interest, my father taught me at a very young age.
Yeah.
He paid me money
Yeah.
to watch a video, an hour-long video on
Nice.
compound interest. And saving as a teen in your early 20s
Yeah.
is so much more beneficial than it is saving later in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And
I bet you're happy you did that.
Yeah, I didn't take all the advice. I took probably half of it.
Yeah.
But that's half the advice that got me forward a little bit
Right.
In life, which is great. So
Yeah.
if you have kids, if there are kids watching this,
Right.
save now
Invest.
at a young age.
Yeah. And don't touch it
Yeah, and don't
until you
touch
have
it.
to. Save it for your wedding or for your kids' college. Yeah.
So you go on, you start this career in hospitality.
Yeah.
How does that go?
It was great. In the early years, so this would have been mid-90s. I'm a bellman at the Omni Hotel in downtown Austin. So I was a bellman in the daytime, and in the evening I was a valet attendant down the street at the Four Seasons. So I loved working double shifts, getting as much tips and overtime as I could. Got to meet a lot of celebrities. You know, Austin was kind of an up and coming area for films as it is now. It's continued to grow. So it was great. We were just living the life. I met my wife a few years in. She worked at the front desk and I was like one of the managers at the front desk. So, and that was 25. So yeah, we started dating 1999.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she's a blessing because I'll tell you more, but we've been through the ringer and she stood by me through all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long after until you guys get married?
So I was the guy that took like 7 years to propose.
No,
Yeah, it's a little longer than
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got married in 2006 and our first son was born 9 months later, honeymoon baby.
Amazing.
And life was great. I think I told you in some of our earlier conversations, around that time, I started having some back issues. So over time, I would end up having 5 different back surgeries, hence painkillers.
Yep.
But life was pretty normal until my early 30s, you know?
Yeah. So why don't you start
Yeah.
with then? Did the back issues start before you guys got married in 2006?
Yeah, it did.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so why don't you then, let's back up a little bit. Walk us through the progression
Okay.
of the back problems and how you ended up essentially getting prescribed
Yeah.
painkillers.
You know, I've always struggled with my weight. I'm kind of a yo-yo dieter. I'll let myself go for a year and then I'll crash diet, crash exercise.
You look great now.
Well, thanks. I'm trying to trend back down, but I mean, I've been up to like 315, back down to 220. You know, I'd love to get under 200 pounds. That's my goal. But probably a couple years into my wife and I first dating, this is ironic. I wish I had a great story of how I injured myself. I pushed myself too hard on the treadmill. That was it. Evidently, you're not supposed to run full speed when you weigh 280 on a treadmill, and just that jarring impact. So over time, I had some bulging discs in my lower back. So surgery was not as advanced back then. This was old school scalpel and, in the hospital for a few days. And that was probably my first experience with painkillers. It was probably Vicodin at the time. I don't remember the dosage. I remember leaving the hospital with like a 60-day prescription, maybe 90 days. And the physical pain tapered off pretty quick, but I loved the way that the pills made me feel. So throughout all of these surgeries, the common theme was I found myself, after the prescription ran out, needing more and playing the game where I'm telling my doctor I still needed it. I'm telling the pharmacist that I spilled them down the sink, anything I could think of to get more. And I've heard you talk about this as well. And I guess there was probably some ignorance on my part. I didn't really understand addiction. I didn't understand the need to plan ahead and taper off. And I didn't really have any help. They just sent you packing after they, did the surgery. And I don't think there was much awareness back then. This was 20 years ago, about the severity of opiate addiction. So to answer your question, yeah, my first surgery or two was as we were dating, those first 6 or 7 years. And that continued, gosh, I want to say, well, I haven't had to have a surgery since 2019. I hope I'm done. The last one, actually, I had a ruptured disc. And I think that one was a spinal fusion. So that was a little bit more intense.
Yeah, of course.
That was bone graft and screws and plates and stuff in my back. I think at some point the Vicodin switched to hydrocodone. And again, the physical pain would wear off a week or so after the surgery. It'd be tender, but if I didn't take that pill every 4 or 5 hours, I get sweaty, moody. I couldn't focus, and I just felt like crap. And I found myself taking it 4 or 5 times a day just to get through the day. But I didn't know I had a problem at that point. And luckily, I caught it before it got too bad, because, as I mentioned earlier, I know a lot of people go through that, and when they can no longer get the prescriptions, they switch to the hard stuff or the stuff they can get on the streets. I think I have, as a lot of us do, kind of an addictive personality. I think had I have ever dabbled in the hard stuff, I don't think I would have been able to make it back from that. So kudos to those that have.
Yeah.
But I think that that's how it starts for a lot of us. You had a college injury, didn't you?
Yeah, shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
Yep, that's how my painkillers started. I was introduced to originally hydrocodones, and then it went to oxycodone,
Yeah.
Percocets,
Yeah.
and then it went to stronger Percocets,
Right.
and then right down that line. So
Did you mix those? I think one of the most dangerous things I was doing those is I would mix those with drinking at
oh
night.
hell yeah,
I was a heavy Crown and Diet Coke was my drink.
hell yeah.
So-
I would smoking weed, drinking, and
Yeah.
taking pills. But if I did not have pills,
Mhm.
that was a major problem.
Right.
If I had pills, but we couldn't get weed, or
Yeah.
we're not going to the bar, I don't really care about that as long as I had the pills.
If you didn't have the pills, can I ask, were you hitting the other stuff a lot harder to make up for that?
Trying to, but
Yeah.
I was getting pills.
Yeah.
There was none of that
You just had to-
overcompensating with something else, because that was the holy grail for me. That's what I needed. That's what gave me my fix. That's what made me feel normal.
Mhm.
So, okay, you have your first surgery early 2000s, 2005, 6, and you had a few surgeries. Now, were you using hydrocodones like during that Vicodin hydrocodone? I'm assuming, did it go up to Percocet as well, oxycodone?
No, it did not.
Okay.
No. And that's a great question. I would say each surgery that was a year, 2 years apart, would inevitably end in withdrawing from painkillers, cold turkey, curled up in a ball, sweating, hating life.
Yeah.
So there was never a situation where I was actively using between surgeries.
Yeah.
But it just kept happening, and I wasn't taking care of myself. And the next thing that happened was in my early 30s, the first signs of mental health issues was really severe sleep problems. So I would be on and off the painkillers for physical reasons. And then just life happens, stress, a new family, kids, corporate job.
Mhm.
And I had never experienced really any depression, or maybe a little anxiety, not as severe yet. And I just remember literally not sleeping, like tossing and turning all night, trying to figure out why I couldn't sleep. And then, you can sustain that for a little while. But I just remember the physical pain, like my whole body felt tight, like I needed to go to the chiropractor and everything. Like maybe you hadn't worked out in 5 years and you go to the gym and you just max out everything.
Mhm.
Imagine what your body would feel like after that.
Yeah.
That's how I felt every moment of the day.
And
And
tense.
Yeah, tense, and trying not to let that that feeling come out in, verbally or emotionally, just
Mhm.
holding it all in,
Yeah.
thinking the whole time, like, what the hell is wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? I'm not sleeping. I'm not taking care of myself. I was a heavy smoker at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking, just, you can sustain that a little bit in your younger years, but as we've all gotten older, that's difficult to recover from.
When did the mental health issues that kind of kicked off from the lack of sleep, when did that start to happen? What year?
So it would have been maybe 2000. So my younger son was born in 2009. It was around then.
Okay.
2009, 2010.
Okay.
My older one's a few years old. My younger one's an infant.
Mm-hmm.
And having battled sleeplessness for on and off for a year or so, I finally started asking for help just with my general practitioner doctor. The same doctor that I would just go for checkups and physicals. So again, this would have been 15 years ago. I don't think many of us were talking much about mental health openly yet. It was starting to surface, but I just didn't really know much about depression and anxiety and how that can affect your sleep or every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
So my doctor put me on my first antidepressant. I want to say it was Cymbalta.
Mm-hmm.
which over the years proved to be the most effective. And somewhere I have a list of all the stuff I've taken, just trial and error. And I ended up trying a number of different medications for anti-anxiety. So to answer your question, 2010-ish is when I finally sought some help and began to experiment with physicians' oversight, different medications.
Cymbalta, are you still on it today?
I am.
Okay, so you've been on it for 15 years,
Yeah.
and I'm assuming it's helped you significantly.
Yeah. I literally, that's all I take. I have had times where I've had a cocktail of several antidepressants, anti-anxiety, sleep meds. I got some stories for you about that. Pain meds, something to put me to sleep, something to wake me up. And finally, we got it dialed in 6 or 7 years ago, where I just take one antidepressant that keeps my mood stable. And I just have to pay attention to my health. If I'm not getting enough sleep, or if I'm sleeping too much, I know the signs now.
So I've had a lot of people on my show that have talked badly about antidepressants.
Yeah.
But antidepressants also help a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
We're like non-denominational
Right.
here at Rise Above. I don't, I'll give my opinions on things, but I keep an open mind. And I know people in my family, friends who are on antidepressants and are doing great.
Yeah.
And it's helping them with their depression.
Yeah.
So, they're big pharma is out to get us all. And it could be the case in some areas. But, the success story that this medication has essentially saved your life.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little more on, so your last usage of opiates was 2019. You had the surgery.
Right.
Can you explain to us, you were self-medicating with the Vicodin and hydrocodone. You were on the antidepressant medication. So was that not working at the time? What was the thinking there?
Yeah, I would definitely say, even though I have found with my doctors what works for me, I can very easily be put in a situation where it no longer works. If a stressful life event happens, or an injury, or a loss of a job, just life. I think for me anyway, what I take keeps me level, but that doesn't mean that I can endure extreme situations and I'm still going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I as long as I could, when I had that last back surgery, which there was so much more going on that we'll get into, where I had my first stay in a psychiatric hospital, and my dad was passing away, and we had just lost my mom a few years earlier. So those types of situations, I don't know if there's a cocktail out there that's going to keep you stable during that, depending on your personal situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, every time I had a back surgery, or a different, I had a failed lap band surgery. That was a mistake. So a couple different surgeries. Every time I would get hooked on the painkillers, and I would go through the motions, trying to get more, trying to find a different doctor. And I heard one of your podcasts, you were talking about how different pharmacies may be on different servers or across state lines, and they couldn't necessarily integrate, and that's no longer the case.
Nope.
But I went through that too.
Yeah. Did you have an incident where you had gotten in trouble?
Luckily, no.
Okay.
But I just remember the humiliation of standing in line at the pharmacy, begging to get another, just 30 more days, please, just 30 more days, or asking my doctor. And I probably should be incredibly thankful that they said no.
Yeah.
Because they could tell I was becoming addicted, or I was addicted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you briefly touched on, you went into a psychiatric home.
Yeah.
Was that in 2019?
Yes. Yeah. 2019 was the first time. It's happened twice.
Okay. Can you take us through
that
experience?
Yeah. So I had a series of events. It was just like the perfect storm. I was under a lot of stress at work. Um, my marriage was falling apart. My kids are young. And, again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just focused on my ego and keeping up with the Joneses, and the walls were caving in. So, uh, my dad called. My mom had died suddenly and tragically 3-4 years earlier. She got sick and went into septic shock and was gone in a couple of days. It was awful. And then as I'm trying to get my life together and just barely getting through each day, my dad called and said that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which I didn't know at the time is a death sentence for the majority. Now, I'm not a doctor, but my understanding is there's really no coming back from that. So I refused to believe it. I just heard cancer, and my first thought was, well, people beat cancer. Let's get through this. Let's get help. And so things were so tense at home that my wife and I separated. So she more so felt it was in our family's best interest to create some space. So she took the kids, we separated for a while, and that ripped my heart out. That was awful. So to cope with that, I just hit the bottle harder, more bourbon. There wasn't, I think I was, well, actually I was, now that I think about it, that was pending another surgery. So I already had the painkillers and now because of the sleep issues, I'm taking Ambien every night. And I wouldn't learn until later that my wife would have to come in the middle of the night and see if I was still breathing. That's how worried she was, because I was taking hydrocodone, drinking 5 or 6 cocktails every day after work, and then popping Ambien to try to fall asleep. So we'll get to the hospital in a moment, but I don't know if you've ever taken Ambien or know anybody that has.
Of course I have.
But if you take it and you don't fall asleep, some wild stuff happens.
The window.
Yeah, the window.
If you miss the window.
Yeah, and for me, it was like an hour, maybe 90 minutes. And it worked at first, but like anything else, you build up a tolerance to that. And I would get up the next morning and my wife would be like, you were cursing about your boss last night. You hung some wind chimes on the back porch, and I would go out there, no memory of any of this. There'd be a drill and a chair and some new wind chimes, and I just didn't have any memory of that. So I was kind of living on the edge there with what I thought was all, well, it's okay, the doctor prescribed it, but I was mixing it with alcohol. So my wife and I are separated. My dad is sick, and I just went off the rails. And we lived in Houston. My dad had gotten remarried, and he and my stepmom, who I love dearly, were 3 hours away in Austin. They came to town, consoled me because my marriage was falling apart. And they're the ones that said, you need to go to the psychiatric hospital. Like something's not right. So I can get as granular as you'd like with that. When you go to the psychiatric hospital, usually you have to go through the ER. So because unfortunately there are folks that try to get into the psychiatric hospital just to get off the streets. That happens. And I feel awful for those people. But it was a process. We go through the ER. You have to meet with a number of doctors and nurses. It was probably 7 or 8 hours of meeting with physicians before they finally said, this guy is actually pretty messed up. Let's admit him to the psychiatric hospital. So they take all your stuff and you're down to whatever t-shirt and shorts you brought with you. No laces in your shoes, no belts. They take your phone, everything. And I just remember saying goodbye to my dad and my stepmom. And as the doors closed, it's me, a nurse, and 2 massive security guards. And I just thought, what have I gotten myself into? Are they going to throw me in a padded room and, lock me away? So yeah, we go through these. I mean, this was a nice place too. I was very blessed. This was the Methodist Hospital in the Texas Medical Center. So Houston is one of the largest medical centers in the world. And we were very lucky to have the insurance and for me to be admitted there. But yeah, you come in, you walk through these massive metal double doors and they close and there's another set over here, like what you would imagine a maximum security prison being like. And at the time I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not supposed to be here. But I was. So it's just me now and it's probably midnight and there's no one around. And I have to do like an intake interview with 2 nurses. So they're asking me the same questions I've been asked all day. Why are you here? Do you not want to live anymore? Tell us what you're taking. Tell us your medical history. And they're looking at the list of prescriptions that I take. And they said, okay, antidepressant, sleep aid, pain med. They said, why are you taking Vyvanse? And I was like, I don't know. Because one of the doctors I go to said it would probably help my concentration. And they both looked at each other like I had just admitted to a crime and said, well, we think you're bipolar. And Vyvanse is awful for people with bipolar. That's the first time I had ever heard bipolar in relation to my health. I had heard of it over time. I knew probably what the average person knew. I just thought it, was a derogatory term that meant you were kind of crazy. And it started to click then. I was like, okay, well, if I'm taking stuff that's making me a little off, that would make sense because my behavior's been kind of wild. So they give me a very strong dose of Seroquel. Seroquel is known to be one of the things if you really need to put somebody out, if they haven't slept in a few weeks. So I took that and I'll never forget. This is funny. So I woke up the next morning really groggy from taking this Seroquel. And the nurse is like, come on, honey, it's time for breakfast. So I waddle over to the restroom and go to the restroom. And then I see the nurse's cart out in the hallway. And I don't know what came over me, but I walked over to the cart and I was still kind of fuzzy, but I saw a clipboard with my name on it. So I was just being nosy, like, what did they say about me? I heard bipolar last night, but that's really all I remember. Kevin, I picked up this clipboard and the only thing I saw was my name and the phrase severe retardation. And I was like, am I in the Twilight Zone? What is happening right now? And I'm not making light of that term. Right. But in the most heartfelt way, I was so confused. So it wasn't until years later I looked up that term, and the definition is basically being distraught, just losing your control of your emotions. That's not the only definition. This is just my recollection of what I was told and what I looked up. But they designated part of my condition as that because I was such a mess, just bawling, weeping. My life had fallen apart. My wife and kids were gone. I'm on painkillers because of my back. My dad is weeks to live. And I can make light of that now, but that's how broken I was.
Yeah.
So I needed to be there. Yeah.
Were you diagnosed with bipolar?
That day.
Okay. So you were diagnosed, and did it all kind of make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, so this would have been 2017.
Okay. So this was 2017, your first go around in the psychiatric.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had lived a decade with rapidly growing severe depression, anxiety, and mood swings, and never got a diagnosis prior to this night. And I'll tell you, if I could back up for a second, I blame myself for that. If people ask me sometimes if I have a regret, it would be that I didn't seek help sooner. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. And I thought I could handle it on my own. And I thought, well, I have a doctor. I mean, she does my physical every year. She's got me on some antidepressants, but nothing was working.
Mm.
So, yeah, to answer your question, I went all of my 30s just trying to fake my way through it, not knowing that there was something really wrong. And when I finally, when that doctor said, hey, like, we've tried different antidepressants, sleep medicine, like, this isn't working, I really think you need to see a therapist. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, my ego was too big. But I gave in because I just wanted to, I just wanted to get better for my family. So she referred me to somebody in Houston. And I knew from the moment I met the gentleman, it just wasn't for me. He was insistent that there had to be something in my childhood that maybe I'm still carrying with me, or and this is before my parents had passed away, so I had backed up a little bit. But I'll never forget, after spending an hour with this professional, and I'm sure he's great at his job, but my case just it didn't go well for us. He looked at me and said, I think you just have a case of the blues. And I was like, what? The blues? I'm trying to not jump off a building here, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something wrong with me.
Right.
But I didn't know terms like bipolar or manic depressive, as it used to be called, or severe depression or anxiety, panic attacks. I just knew I was miserable. So that kind of made me jaded towards the concept of therapy, which would later save my life, I believe. But that's part of my, the reason why I share my story is, one of the reasons is because I wanted to give up in that moment and be like, well, therapy didn't work. Medicine's not working. I don't know what else to try.
Right.
Luckily, I had family that loved me and talked me to going into the hospital. So yeah, to answer your question, that was the first time I had heard the term bipolar. So in most hospitals, and in this one anyway, I was there for a week, and every day or every other day, each patient would meet with their designated nurse and the head clinician, the head of the psychiatric unit. And we went through a series of conversations. He agreed, and they said I had bipolar II. Bipolar I, bipolar II, somewhat different. My understanding is bipolar I has a lot more manic episodes, and bipolar II has some mania, but more depressive. So I'll tell you more in a bit about some manic episodes that I've had. But when it clicked for me, when I had a glimmer of hope, and I knew that I was in the place that I needed to be, the doctor said, listen, your life's not over. This is treatable. And you just need to know that you kind of control your own destiny. We're going to give you a treatment plan. We're going to work with you. But he said, think about it like this. He held up his hands. And I just used the analogy like if someone was telling you a story about a fish they caught, like it was this big, right? It got away, but it was this big. He said, everybody has a range of emotions. Maybe you're sad, maybe you're happy, excited, emotional. This is the normal range for, I don't want to say normal people, but everyday people. And with your condition, your range is just like this. That's all it is. So we just have to keep your range in here. And then it clicked. And I knew at that moment that I didn't need to give up hope and that there was help. And it was going to take some work. And there is no magic pill. I looked for it for a long time. There isn't one. But that week in that psychiatric hospital that saved my life. And I would have one more visit years later that I'll tell you about. But had I have not done that, I would have just kept drinking, taking painkillers, not sleeping, and I would have, who knows how it would have ended.
You would eventually have progressed down that opiate line. That's what
Yeah.
would have happened.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you get this diagnosis. Now you're on a treatment plan. This is 2017. What happens from 2017 to 2019 when you ultimately end up getting clean off of the opiates?
After my father passed away, I kind of got my life back together, but
What year did he pass away?
2017.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I was literally in the hospital,
Yeah.
took a leave of absence from work. I'm in the psych unit, but my employer thinks I'm just stepping away from work to be with my dying father.
Yep.
So, which was partly true.
Yep.
And thank God I got to spend that time with him.
Yeah.
So he passed away in 2017.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm in my early 40s and both parents are gone. I just feel like that's kind of young to lose both your parents. So I kind of get my life together for a year or two. And I don't know that there was a particular event. I just started to become stressed out at work and a bit paranoid. Paranoia is a key symptom of bipolar. So my imagination would run wild. I had a coworker that I wouldn't get along with, and I convinced myself that he was trying to get me fired. And there was definitely some friction, but I was in kind of a senior management position. So it was kind of a big deal. It made it to the ownership level. And this went on for a while, and my mental health declined. And I believe I saw the writing on the wall. I thought at some point I was going to be fired. So I made the mistake of taking action. You know what happened, Kevin? I confided in my boss, who I had a great relationship with, about that hospital stay a year or so earlier. In a moment of weakness, I thought if I was vulnerable with him, he would cut me some slack. He would see that I was being genuine, and he was very receptive to it at the time. So this is when corporate America was embracing
mental health and people getting help, stand up and ask for help.
Right.
Yep.
Talk to HR.
It's okay.
There's a safe space. And I believe that. I encourage that.
I don't.
I would caution people. Yeah. Don't do what I did. I told my boss it went great for about a week. And then I feel like he turned on me. I'm sure I did some things that. Here's the moral of my story. Once you put somebody in that position, when you show them all of your vulnerabilities, if you're in a working relationship, the minute that there's any friction or a superior needs to counsel somebody else, now you have an issue because you've gone down that road of, all my secrets. So I felt like he was holding it against me. And I took the position of, you're being hard on me because I told you that I have some mental health issues. And we were both wrong. I was wrong for escalating it. He was wrong. It was not smart. I mean, the guy would put stuff in writing like, I'm going to come down on you. This is unacceptable. And I would be like, this is because I told you about my bipolar disorder. It got ugly. So you asked what caused the next hospital stay. I saw the writing on the wall. I knew that career was going to come to an end, and I felt discriminated against, and I went and got a lawyer, and I sued my employer. I went there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's what was that like?
It was wild. Well, I was out of my mind at this point. So I was manic, and when someone with bipolar is going through a manic episode, if you don't know much about bipolar disorder, that doesn't mean that they strip their clothes off and run down the street naked. Like it could be, but could also be that they maybe
Overly prideful,
overshare
over a situation.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, the deal. You've had some great guests on that
Yeah,
have dealt with it, right? So
of course.
what was the Poppy? What was the guest that you had? The
Ciroc Poppy.
Ciroc Poppy. And so I was not at that level. But I was at a point where, that I think the biggest downfall for me with bipolar is that you don't think about what's going to happen next. You don't think about the consequences. So
Yeah.
I just thought, you hurt my feelings. I'm going to get a lawyer. And I didn't think about how that would play out. I just thought, I'm going to stand up for myself, somewhat justified. So my lawyer filed a discrimination grievance with the state, and that quickly made it to our owners. And
You had left the company already, or no? You were still
I'm
working?
going to work every day.
Okay.
And I put my employer in a tough spot because I'm the guy so I probably didn't do a good job clarifying. I had left hotels and I was working for the parking industry. So in each city, there's a number of companies that they oversee all the parking for the convention center and the hotels and the airport and the hospitals. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. And I worked for this company and I was the guy in charge of Houston. So when I put my employer in that position, they kind of went into panic mode because they couldn't retaliate, but yet they couldn't tell me not to come to work. So, and I think I heard a similar story that you shared about you went to your employer and said, hey, I think I need to get help because you saw the writing on the wall or something like that. Am I remember
Yeah,
that?
I felt like they were coming down on me and I was trying to be slick. And I did that at multiple companies.
Yeah.
I would use at work. People would catch on and I'm like, well, before they fire me,
Yeah.
I'm going to jump into that safe zone where they can't fire me now.
See, I thought I was jumping into the safe zone. I didn't think about what would come next.
So what came next?
Litigation.
But you were still working for the company?
Yeah, this went on for a couple of months of investigations and awkwardness. And my boss was in Dallas and they wouldn't allow him to come to Houston because we couldn't be in the same room. And holy crap, this Russell guy is in charge. Is he going to strip his clothes off and run through the office, or is he mentally stable? It was, I mean, the sad part is I adored this company. Fantastic company, based out of Connecticut, out of Hartford. I put them in a very unfair spot. They did what they had to do to protect themselves, but it was awkward for all of us. I needed a paycheck. I wasn't going to stop coming to work, but I was not thinking clearly. So, yeah. So to answer your question,
Did you win the lawsuit?
we settled in mediation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
For an undisclosed amount.
I mean, it was not a windfall, but I was comfortable for a while. And check this out. This is how heartfelt this company is. I actually wanted to come back. So we're negotiating. Hey, you want me to leave? You're going to pay me for the next 10 years or whatever that is. They're like, no, that's not going to happen. So we go back and forth. I'm in a room with my attorney. They're in another room. We never see each other. And there's a mediator going back and forth. So we're there all day. And once we get close to terms, they gave me enough to be okay for a few years. And I hadn't even thought about this. They offered to continue my health care for a while because they knew that I needed to get help. Wow. And I thought, how great is that? In the moment, I didn't see it. But looking back, yeah, they didn't have to do that. They didn't do it to get recognition. They did it because they cared about me, even after the position that I put them in.
Do you fault yourself for saying something to your boss, or are you not allowed to speak on that?
Oh, no. I mean, I signed an NDA, but there's not much I can't say. Yeah, I mean, if I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't have disclosed that.
Yeah. Because you felt like it was thrown back in your face by your boss.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's where the discrimination came about. Yeah. Got it.
And I would never want anyone to feel like they couldn't do that. I would my advice having been through it was, don't shout it from the mountaintops like I did. Be very, very selective of who you tell. If you're having a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue, I implore you to get help.
Yeah.
But be selective of who you tell. Because once you tell your employer, that's a bell you cannot unring.
Yep.
I'm not saying don't tell your employer. I'm sure that there are some fantastic confidential programs out there with human resources, but I didn't go that route. I went the destructive route.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, if that's how we're going to do things, I'll put you guys on notice. And that did not end well for any
You
of us.
played chess with them.
Right,
That's what you did.
Yeah. But as far as regretting it, I continue to be reminded that everything happens for a reason. I don't think that I would have gotten the help that I needed and have now been happy and healthy for 6 going on 7 years had that have not happened.
Mm.
I wouldn't have said anything. I would have been miserable for another 6 months. They would have fired me and I would have went through the motions again and again.
Mm.
So I think it worked out.
So, okay, 2019, how do you ultimately end up getting off of painkillers?
So that separation from my employer hit me pretty hard. I found myself uncertain. I felt labeled. I felt like I had kind of outed myself as someone with a mental health issue. And each industry, they run in the same circles. So I felt like I had created a reputation for myself as someone that has issues. You don't want to hire this guy. So now I'm humiliated.
Mm.
So I just kind of curled up in a ball and I was back in the hospital. I was back in the same psychiatric hospital. I think I had already had my last surgery when my dad had passed away. So I really hadn't had access to painkillers since then. I was in the hospital this second round during Thanksgiving. That was interesting. I mean, talk about a time where you're supposed to be enjoying life with family and the holidays. And, I was having a makeshift turkey sandwich with the other people that were just trying to get through the day in the hospital. So I don't know that stay was as impactful. The first day I got a diagnosis, which created a path for me to go forward. Then the wheels fell off at work. So I'm back in the hospital. This stay was more just to kind of escape the world. And I hear that from a lot of people that end up going to the hospital. They just want to tune out the world and get help. But it's not necessarily, I thought it was going to be a mini vacation. It's not necessarily that, but it's where I needed to be.
Yep.
So I did the second and final stint in the hospital, but things got really dark after that. Over the years, I would occasionally have some suicidal ideation, fleeting thoughts that a lot of people have, nothing that I ever intended to act on.
You just didn't care if it happened.
Yeah, like what if,
What's the point of living?
Right. Or what if that happened? But I never, a lot of times when you go to a therapist or a psychiatrist, they have you fill out these forms, right? There's the CAD scale, I think it is. Have you lost interest in things that you used to enjoy? Are you sleeping too much? Are you sleeping not enough? And my scores start through the roof.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
10, 10, 10.
And the doctors would always ask, are you having suicidal thoughts? Yeah, occasionally. And then the key question was always, well, do you have a plan? I never had a plan.
Yeah.
But what scared me in 2019 was I was starting to think about a plan. So this is tough, but I was just done. I was ready to check out. And what's crazy is I can look back at it now and I don't know why. I had a beautiful family. We've been through some stuff, but young kids. And I guess I had convinced myself that my best years were over. Maybe I felt like I was an inconvenience to my family. So I was ready to punch out. And I just thought, I'm going to take a knife and go sit somewhere quiet in my car. And it's kind of gruesome, but so I remember the day that I thought I was going to carry that out. And the scary part is I actually said goodbye to my kids, which, you know, I remember being completely emotionally exhausted. I've been crying for months. I'm out of tears. I'm out of shits. I just don't give a shit anymore. And I just remember wanting my kids to remember the last thing hugging me. They didn't know it was goodbye, but I knew it was goodbye. So I hugged both my boys, and I intentionally avoided my wife because I knew that she would know something was going on. And I just went for a drive, found a quiet spot, just put my car in park, and I just kind of sat there like stoic for about an hour. No radio, phones off. Figured somebody would find me. And I just couldn't do it. You know, there wasn't like a pivotal moment. I couldn't stop thinking about my family. I'm like, man, I cannot put my kids. I knew that if I had done that, I was going to create a lifelong mental health issue for my kids. And the one thing that was allowing me to hang on was not wanting them to have to go through stuff like that.
Yeah, you felt like you were the burden. So
Yeah.
by eliminating yourself, you were getting rid of that burden, but then you had this
Yeah.
realization that you were creating a much greater
right
burden.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the days leading up to that, I would have these freaky dreams. Like I would picture people at my funeral.
Mm-hmm.
I would wonder, you know, if my wife would ever get remarried. I would think about my kids being teased at school. It was awful. So to your point, what went from me feeling like a burden to them, thank God, turned into, you can't do that to them. What are you doing? So I drove home and I went back to the psychiatrist, and she said, listen, you've been in the hospital twice. This is a psychiatrist. So now at this point, I have general doctors, psychologists, therapists, and notable psychiatrists. And she said, I told her, I was like, I never had a plan. I almost did it. And she said, I think that you should consider electroconvulsive therapy, ECT. And the first thing that popped in my mind was the old 70s movie.
I know exactly
One
where you're
Flew
going
Over
with
the
this.
Cuckoo's Nest,
Yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
like, really? You want to shock my brain? But hey, I was gonna check out a few days ago, so I'll do anything. I don't care. And we went down that path. So my wife for the next 6 or 8 weeks would drive me once a week early in the morning, leave the house 4:30 in the morning downtown. The place, I don't know, I don't know why we went to this place. Not that they offer this on every corner, but the place that my insurance would accept that I was referred to from my psychiatrist was like the county mental institution. This is where I believe they house the mentally ill that just can't be helped. They're too sick to be in prison. They have to be monitored. And they have these treatment centers there that offer this type of extreme therapy. So I'm just a zombie, just kind of stumbling through life. I'm like, that's fine. You can shock my brain. Whatever it takes. I gotta be here for my family. So the first time we go there and we're in the waiting room and there's other normal looking loved ones with their child or spouse there, parent. And they call you back one at a time. So eventually they call my name. I go back and they get you on a gurney and start an IV, and you're just in street clothes. I'm just wearing jeans and a t-shirt. And you can hear, so there's maybe 5 of us in the waiting area. And in the back, there's a curtained off area. And you can hear like what sounds like beeps of like a heart monitor, type situation, just like you would hear in a hospital room. When you hear the doctors talking, and then you just hear this one long constant beep. That's what I would imagine like a flat line sounding like, just a long beep. That was them applying the shock to the patient before. I'm probably not doing this justice because I'm sure there's a much more clinical explanation, but this is my memory of
No,
it.
this is what my audience wants. This
Yeah.
is relatable to my audience.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear the clinical.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's an IV. They give you a warm blanket. They're very sweet, just they know that you're hanging on for dear life. So they're very empathetic. I remember they give you, they want to know name, date, why you're there, make sure you're coherent. And they give you a clipboard of pictures and ask you to describe them. Well, they're all farm animals, right? So whatever, chicken, horse, cow. And when they bring you back after you wake up, they make you identify those again to make sure that your brain's not scrambled, is my assumption.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have any issue with that. But yeah, I mean, when it was my turn, they wheeled me back there. They kind of described what was going to happen. They put this gel on my temples, had me breathe into a mask, and they pushed the anesthesia, put a mouthpiece in so you didn't bite your tongue off, I guess, or clench your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And they apply a electrode to both of your temples.
What did it hurt?
No, I don't remember anything. The last thing I remember is the absolute euphoric feeling of that anesthesia. And if you've had surgeries, you know that you actually see videos of it now, people filming themselves trying to count from 10, see how long. I don't know if this was a heavier dose of anesthesia, probably because of what they're about to do to your brain. But I went through this 6 or 8 times, and I just remember each time that split second feeling of that anesthesia going in. I'm breathing in through the mask, and it's coming in through my IV. And then you wake up like an hour later in the waiting area. Little headache. They're pretty quick to engage you in a conversation, make sure that all of your faculties are still there. Mm-hmm. Make sure you still recognize the pictures on the clipboard. And I remember the nurse was so sweet. She said, how do you feel? And I was like, my head hurts a little bit, but I don't feel different. And she said, that's okay. This isn't a one-time fix. This isn't a magic pill. It takes time, and we're going to get you better. And I just remember feeling so grateful that someone is at this darkest moment in their life, and they have the wherewithal to just be so loving and caring. Empathetic. Yeah. Because that can't be a pleasant job.
No.
Like I couldn't imagine having to facilitate that.
And there's so many people. How can you be so endearing to every single person?
Yeah.
That goes to show the type of people that are working there.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm very grateful.
So tell us about your journey once you started to recognize a difference after the 6 to 8 weeks that you did do the treatment. What was that like?
It was gradual. It was a journey. It was, I think each week gave me a little more hope. I had something to look forward to, probably similar to a meeting for addict.
Mm-hmm.
You just take it one day at a time, stay in the day. I think I've heard you say before. So after each one, I'd feel a little better. I mean, this is a time where if I wasn't going to that treatment, I was in bed. I was not leaving the house. I was ruminating in my own, you get in your own head when you isolate, right? And you just start spinning. So that slowly started to improve. And what happened was towards the end of those treatments, I was feeling a little better. I could do some yard work. I could get stuff done around the house, which was a huge accomplishment because I was at the point where I was a hermit. I couldn't take a phone call. I couldn't look my kids in the eye. And we had a power washer on the side of our house, and I was just looking for something to do. And at the time, I didn't know that just finding something to do is good, for the process. So I thought, well, I'll just try to power wash. I don't even know how to use this thing. I probably used it once. So I spent that whole day power washing our driveway and sidewalks and anything I could find. And it was so rewarding, instant gratification. It just made me kind of turn the corner. I certainly couldn't have gone out and gotten a job anytime soon. This was right around when COVID started. So now we're into 2020.
Mm.
And spring of 2020. So now I'm coming out of my shell a little bit. I'm actually being present with my family. My boys are probably 10 and 12 at the time. And I said, hey, let's go knock on some of the neighbors' doors and see if they'll let us power wash their driveway for like $50. And they did. And then the next one did. And then somebody would tell somebody else, and then they did. And the next thing you know, people are calling us like, hey, are you guys the father and son? You clean the Joneses' driveway? I'm like, yeah, that's us. And it just took off. And what started as something to keep me busy to improve my mental health turned into how we provide for our family today. And we're in our 6-year business. We have multiple trucks, and both of my boys work with us and a handful of employees. And what started as cleaning my driveway to force myself to get out of bed turned into being a small business owner.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
You have multiple trucks now.
Yeah.
You've built this company. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wild.
Yeah. It's just completely on accident.
Yeah.
The first year was just kind of a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
A little Home Depot pressure washer, bungee corded to the back of a beater SUV.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think when it hit me that this could be the real thing, we got the insurance and the LLC and the uniforms and created a brand. And now we're not cleaning driveways for $50. We're cleaning 10,000 square foot homes for decent money, and cleaning office buildings and commercial parking lots, and
wow,
upgrading equipment, hiring employees. My older son does the books. He does the payroll and helps with the revenue side. My younger son is very mechanically inclined, so he does a lot of the repairs and the maintenance. We're not self-sustainable. We still have to seek, mechanical help and stuff. But
mm-hmm.
I mean, going from almost abandoning my kids to getting to work with them every day and getting to teach them what I love, which is the rewards of having a decent work ethic. Like I guess I was kind of blessed to make a 180 turn.
Mm. Do you believe in God?
I do. I wouldn't say I'm overly spiritual, but I definitely turned to him at some of the worst times and asked for help. Yeah.
So I'm a big believer in if you just put in if you take a little bit of action,
Mm-hmm.
good things will start to happen. And with the shock therapy that you went through, you took the action and your wife helped you. She drove you there.
Yeah.
But that was, I think you said it was your psychiatrist who had said, you've already done 2 stays.
Yeah.
Why don't you try this?
Yeah.
You didn't have to do it. You could have just sat in your own shit for a longer period of time, right into COVID. And then we all know where that would have went.
Yeah.
But you didn't. And you took that little bit of action, and look where you're at now. I mean, you're on Rise Above. You made it.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah. I feel like it. I try to stay humble. I mean, anything can happen tomorrow. I don't have it all figured out. if I'm not careful, I don't take care of myself, I can have another manic episode or a depressive episode, or just stuff happens. But I really believe that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it.
Well, Russell, I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking the trip out here and
Yeah, thank you.
sharing your story just so that it helps one other person out there
Yeah.
who potentially could be going through what you went through and, to get out on the other side.
Yeah, I hope so. That's why I share it. I'm so grateful for your platform. There's nothing else like that out there. My hope is that at least one person sees this. My biggest struggle was that I couldn't find any success stories of people that had pulled themselves out of the darkness when I was hurting.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hope that maybe my story can help someone that's struggling go, okay, well, this knucklehead figured it out, so maybe there's hope for me.
Yeah. And what's the name of your power washing company?
It's called Katie Brothers Pressure Washing. We live in a suburb of Houston. It's called Katy, Katy.
Katy Brothers.
Yeah. So for my two sons.
Okay,
brothers.
great. Do you guys take international business? I'm sorry. Let's just say domestic in the U.S.
Yeah.
Like, do you take out of state business or
Not really. We stay in our
Houston area?
We've traveled at times for larger jobs.
Okay.
We have some wild stories. I've been stuck in a bucket lift 100 feet in the air and have to have the fire department come get me. That was fun.
Those are your problems today.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd much rather have that problem, but I guess maybe I'm living proof that, to your point, if you just try something, I had given up.
Yeah.
And I thought, let me try one more thing. And it's not a forever. I still have to take care of myself, but I really think that your platform gives people hope, whatever they're dealing with. So thank you for letting me share my story.
Appreciate that. Thank you again for coming out.
Yeah, thanks.